Okay, hey guys, so this is going to be, my first video, and it's kind of going to be a story time, and yeah, I'm not really good at this, so let's just see how this goes. So the thing I wanted to talk about is about surrender, something that I myself am not very good at, surrendering and just flowing with the process. The reason I'm not good at it is because I'm always trying to control every second of my time, every second of my day, because I want to make sure that I'm taking the right actions necessary to do what's needed. So this is a little strange talking on camera, but I guess I'm going to see if I can get used to speaking. And what I'm going to be sharing is two stories of when I surrendered, or just kind of like surrendered to the process, just left it to God, Jesus take the wheel type of energy, because that's kind of all you could do at that point. The first incident was when I first got my studio. So how that came about was randomly one day I got an email. I think it was something I had signed up to a long time ago, like years ago, to where it was like a collective shared studio spaces where you could get studio spaces for a discounted prices for artists. And I thought this was great, but at the time I wasn't in any condition to get a studio. I thought I was like, okay, it was something to think about. And lo and behold, last October, so let's say October 2022, randomly one day I got an email from them, and I had forgotten completely about this. I had not received any emails, none at all. But all of a sudden one day it was there, and I was like, wait, why is this even here? And I was just like, I wasn't looking for this. That's when it started, when those little breadcrumbs started rolling in from the universe, from God and the universe. And I was like, oh wow, this is a great idea and a great opportunity. It was an application to see if I could get into a studio space. And it was right after signing up for another program that I had signed up for to start focusing on more design work, more artwork. But the style of art that I did was called modern batik, and that's very messy. So where I am right now, there's no space to do it. There is space, but unless you want dye all over your house, coating all your clothing, you don't really want to have that in that space all the time, right? So that's why it was very limiting, and I couldn't really do work on it at home. So my art was always limited to like just digital designs, digital art, but I wanted to do bigger pieces, more physical. I like the physicality of like modern batik. So that's why I ended up trying to see if I can find an art space where I can be more free with my expressions, with the paint, more playful, less restricted, less closed in. So when I saw that opportunity, I jumped on it. I was like, oh wow, this is great. But you have to go through an application process. Obviously, they want you to tell me about yourself. What do you do? Why do you want the space? So obviously I was like, oh shit. So I got into the process of, writing about myself. And I don't know why, but I left it to the last freaking minute. This is how you self-sabotage yourself, people. Just leaving everything to the last minute. But I also have ADHD, so it's not surprising that happened, right? So I left it up to the last minute, and then finally, when it was like minutes to midnight, I had 5 hours to put a little random portfolio together, all my pictures, explain my story to myself, because until that moment I hadn't even explained to myself why I'm doing this, why I'm applying to this. So I had to really think, I'm like, oh shit, why am I applying to this? And then it all kind of just, I don't know why, it just flowed easily out of my mouth about why I was trying to get this space. So yeah, a lot of rambling, as you can see, but it was good for me to do that because it helped me clarify why I wanted the space also for myself, and just made me look at everything that I had been through over the last couple of years in a completely different perspective, because I hadn't done modern batik in 10 years. I had stopped cold turkey paint, no dyes, no inks, no nothing had even touched any fabric. Even though I had the work that I was showing from 10 years ago, I had not created a new piece, nothing, a new piece of modern batik in 10 years. So for me, it's for how much I love the medium, it's madness to even think about why that was. But that's also why I wanted the space, so I could break that, like whatever was holding me back, that stagnant energy, and start doing art, start having fun again with art, falling back into your passion, into your love of it, of why you wanted to do things, certain things for why you wanted to do certain things. So if the light's getting in the way, it's kind of hard to see as I'm moving around, but that's why I wanted to do it. And even though it was a last minute application, I was lucky enough to get the space that I wanted, and I was very grateful. I was excited. I was just like, this is amazing. This is amazing. I was able to get the space. So even though you're accepted for the application, you still should go in and see, yeah, you got the space, but is the space going to work for you, right? Because you have the space in your imagination and you have the space in reality, right? So me and my sister ended up going and checking out the space. So they showed us the lot that they were going to give me, and I was like, okay, I think I could make this work. I'm like, it's not like I had one before, so I have nothing to lose, right? But it was a small space and Batik needs a space because it's not really a canvas where you can lay on a wall and then just sit in a corner. And like, if you want to make a big one, you have to lay it flat, open, and they have a lot of different tools that you need sometimes just to make the artwork. So that was so I was gonna say that to make the artwork. So, but I had to make sure that I could actually make it work in that space that I was getting. So me and my sister, we went one night. The lady on staff showed me the space that they had given me in the email, and I was very happy, very grateful. I said, you know what, I'm gonna get the space. It's great. So I approved the whole process, went through, finished the application, sent in my first and last rent. I paid for that spot. It was good. I'm just like I'm happy with that. That would be good. And then I remember in December, I was like, oh, it's Christmas time. I remember thinking to myself, it would be amazing if I could get more space. More space would be great. And then I was like, you know what? Well, I got the studio. Let me just, let me try it. So I said, okay, God, universe, please send me more space. I literally said that. Please send me more space, please, 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 please. It would be amazing to get more space. Closed my eyes, sent my wish up into the universe, and I was just like, okay, let's see what happens. I'm like, let's see what happens. And fast forward a month later, it was move-in time to get into the space, and everything was going well in a moving standpoint. My boyfriend helped me. He hired one of his coworkers, and his coworkers came to help him out, to help me out. And so both of them helped me move all my stuff to the studio. The only problem was when I got to the studio, normally one artist leaves and another one enters. There was someone else in the spot, and I was confused because I was just like, okay, what's this? What's happening? I don't understand. Is this not what's supposed to happen? So I was like, I ended up having to leave all the stuff that day because I couldn't bring it back with me. I just finished getting it out of my house, all the art stuff that I owned out of my house, and I ended up putting it in an empty space at the studio. It was a smaller space than the one that I was supposed to get, and I just ended up having to leave all my stuff there because I couldn't bring it back. I couldn't just pile everything back in the car and drive it back to my house at that time. I had a time frame that I had to stick to. So once so they just drove me back home, and I was just like, okay, well, that didn't go as planned. So I had a studio, but I had no space. So so I ended up just putting what I could in the storage that they had at the studio, or what I could fit there, and then leaving the rest in that empty lot, hoping that no, it wasn't somebody else's space I was accidentally taking, right, without knowing it. Well, I had no choice also, right? And so I ended up having to contact them saying, hey, I think there's been a mistake, we gotta look at this, we gotta fix this, what's happening? And they had to, and so after that they went back and they checked, and they're like, so they're like, what had happened was apparently that spot's taken. So the spot that I was thinking it was going to be mine, that was going to come to me, that was like, I'm like, what, I think I could make this work. The one that I signed off on, I'm like, it was already taken, So I was like, they sent me the wrong number, and I was like, how's that even possible? I was like, what the heck? So of course my heart was like devastated because I didn't want the smaller space. Like it's a fine space. I'm grateful for the space, but it wasn't gonna work for me. It wasn't gonna ignite gonna get me back into the right mind frame that I wanted to get it back into. So I was like, oh man. And they're like, don't worry, we're gonna figure this out. And I waited like I think a week or so as everyone tried to figure out what was happening. And I was just in limbo. I had to sit still. I had to pause. I had to think about. And then for me, I had taken off some vacation time in order to get everything moved in, get the studio set up so that I was comfortable to create. I wanted to go bing, bing, bang, even though I hadn't slept in 2 days because I was packing everything up, moving everything out of my house, delivering it to the studio. So I did that for 2 nights straight. I didn't sleep. I was up all night the night before the move, right? The night before the move. And so I was like, I'm gonna spend the rest of the day, setting up the studio, and the day after that setting up the studio, so that by the 3rd day I would still have 3 days in the studio just to sit there and just make stuff happen, make the magic happen. That's not how my brain was working. Just make the magic happen. Well, what ended up happening was I couldn't do anything. I could not, I didn't go back to this because I was still waiting to hear back. I had no space to make magic happen, right? So what that forced me to do is I literally had to stay home for the whole vacation, and I did nothing. And that was hard. That was really hard because I was like, what's happening? I don't get it. What's going to happen to this space? And it forced me to do something that I hadn't done in the last 3 days, which was sit still, rest, relax, unwind. That's what vacations are for. Not more work, not to dive even harder into work. I was just supposed to sit down and rest and relax. And even though it was hard and I felt like I was losing so much time, so much energy that I could be putting towards all the art, I felt a little dejected. I felt a little bitter, I'm not gonna lie, because I was like, I had 3 whole days. I could have made stuff. I could have set up the studio. I could have done all this, and I couldn't do it. So I felt like I wasted a whole vacation, which made, and then by the end, and I still didn't end up getting into the studio before my vacation ended. I ended up having to go to, it was like I think 2 weeks before I actually came back to the studio, and by then they'd figured out a solution. So what had happened was they ended up splitting a larger space with me. It was the manager's space, so that was very kind of them, of him. Like, he split the space with me, and I was just like, he's just like, I didn't know it was a space at the time though. He was just like, yeah, we were able to take another space and split it in half. Be like, I'll come down and see the space and see if it works for you. And I was just like, okay, I'll check it out. And then I got to the space. It was I was in a different area, but I was like, okay, this should do. I was attached to the area before, so it took me a second to get used to this one. So I was just like, you know what, it's okay. I'll make it work. Because I'd already sketched out ideas of how I wanted the other space to look like, or how I would put my stuff, just to see what I could bring. So I had to rethink now about how I was going to make this new space work for me. So I had to let go of the idea of what I wanted prior, just so I could reimagine what I had now. And lo and behold, me and my sister's as I was like moving the stuff in, actually no, it was 2 weeks later. Yeah, after 2 weeks I ended up moving up. Me and my sister came now, and we moved my stuff from the other empty space into mine, and then guess what, it was a bigger space. The space was bigger, and I didn't realize how much a couple of extra square footage would make, but it was a good thing though, because all the stuff that I had brought wouldn't have all fit in the area that I was where I was before, or I wouldn't have been as comfortable as I am right now making art, especially with how the batiks are, because it's floppy, it's just fabric basically, right? It's just you're just painting on fabric, not like canvas on a board, just it's fabric. And I was like, wow, it's so much bigger. I'm like, I think I got more space, and I was so grateful. And I was like, shit, Tia's my sister, by the way. I was like, I think I got more space. And she's like, no. And then we brought out the tape measure, and she's like, and then she remembers, like, didn't you just ask for that? She's like, I thought that was just bullshit. And I'm like, is this what surrender looks like? Not even surrender, just I'm like, this must be what they say when you manifest something into your life that you didn't really think was gonna come towards you. But I was so shocked. Honestly, I'm still shocked at what happened, because I learned a lot that month. You know, I learned about just, you know, patience, being able to slow down, resting. I learned that the universe does listen when you ask, so long as you're doing everything that you need to do. And I think the reason I kind of surrendered to the process was I had done everything I could do in terms of packing up everything, moving in everything, going in the area, sending the emails to rectify all the information. I'd done everything that I could do. There was nothing else I could do. It was up to them to decide what they were going to do, right? So that's the only way I could surrender to the process and just sit and just rest. I could only rest. That's literally all I could do, just rest and just let it go, because I had no control over it. I couldn't decide what space I was going to get. I could just accept whatever they had to give me at that point and decide if that was enough for me or if I had to go someplace else. But luckily it all worked out really well, and I'm like very grateful, and I've been using the space right now to create some new work, which I will of course be showing more on the channel. But yeah, and you know, even got me online talking about my experiences and stuff like that, which I think it's a good thing, because yo man, life. So that's what I'm gonna be doing more of, like in the future, just keep sharing like a lot of these things that have just happened, and just like the lessons I've learned from life and the things that have been like happening with me, and you know, and also my new artistic explorations and the things that I'm working, the projects that I'm working on, the personal projects I'm working on, because I think that's why I really wanted the new space. I wanted to work on more personal projects that are like important to me. Right now I'm in the process of finishing up any boutiques that I have, like they're like 10-year-old boutiques that were half done. They were like half finished, half created, and it was like they were paused in time, you know, forever to stay that way. And I'm like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to finish it. We're going to complete this chapter so that, you know, so that new things can come in, you know, new fresh ideas. So closing it out, and so far I finished I'd say about 75% of them, as in terms of just making the color, adding the colors, not the final detailing, because you know, I'm a little extra, so it's going to be a little bit longer for the other part. But you know, I hope you enjoy the process of me showing you these new creations that I'm going to be posting to the channel, and I hope you enjoy, you know, staying tuned with what I have to share. Hopefully that story helps you surrender a little bit more in your life, and just like don't stress too much about the things you can't control. Like, because I've noticed a trend that so long as you do everything that you need to do, every single thing that you can personally think of, then the universe will figure out, send you different opportunities that you've never, that from other people. Because sometimes the universe, God, will speak through other people for you, and it's important to, I don't know, pay attention and stuff like that. But or God will bless you through other people. That's true, you know. And yeah, so hope you enjoyed that story time. That was the surrender moment. Surrender one, actually. I've had many moments of surrender since then, but that was the first one that, you know, tickled my peripheral vision, where I was like, oh wow, this is so cool. It didn't penetrate yet, but it was the one that stood out the most to me at the beginning, because it was like the start of my, you know, new adventure, you know, January 2023, the beginning of all of that stuff. So I think that's why it's important, because it was the one where I first learned how to just rest and relax and just accept, basically. Because once you accept, then you can just, I don't know, feed your soul with something else until your harvest comes in some places. Okay, well, thank you guys for my channel. Welcome to Tiana Robinson Creates, and I hope, you know, you have a good adventure with me as I continue on this journey. Bye.